Welcome to the Bettis Musgrove Show, the podcast where personal injury legal expertise meets real-world advice to empower and protect you. Join us as we delve into the critical aspects of personal injury cases, break down legal jargon into actionable insights, and share essential safety tips to help you navigate life's unexpected moments. And now, here are your hosts, Spencer Bettis and Ben Musgrove.
Well, welcome to season 2, episode 5 of the Bettis Musgrove Show. As always, I'm Ben Musgrove, usually joined by my partner, Spencer Bettis, but he and his wife just welcomed their second baby to the world. So he's out taking care of mom and baby and getting them situated. So I'm here today to do this by myself, and we're going to continue on the community topic, talking about different people and organizations in the community. Absolutely thrilled to be joined by a pillar of the Forsyth County community, and that's our district attorney, Miss Penny Penn. So, Miss Penny, thank you for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely excited about this one. We knew we wanted to get a prosecutor on here. I think it's an area that a lot of people don't know a lot about, so want to explore who you are and what all you do for the county. Why don't you open it up for us and just tell us about you, where you came from, how you got here, that type of thing.
Well, I was born in Arkansas. My parents were born and raised there. We moved around quite a bit as my dad was getting different degrees and pursuing employment opportunities until my high school years. I graduated from high school in Northern Virginia, outside of D.C., went off to college in Massachusetts, came back, lived a couple of years in Virginia, still outside Washington, and then came to Emory to go to law school.
So how many different states have you lived in?
All right, I'm going to have to think about that a minute. It was Arkansas, Louisiana, Indiana, North Carolina, Virginia, then Massachusetts, and then Georgia.
Wow. Which is your favorite?
I think that Arkansas, I spent summers there and holidays, and that's always going to hold a place in my heart, a special one, and because that's where my parents are from. They both ended up back there, live there now. So I have a lot of fond memories, but Georgia's the longest I've ever lived anywhere. I've grown fond of it.
Yep. Well, same here. I've lived here almost my entire life, 1 year in Colorado, but spent some time in Arkansas, always in the winter chasing ducks. But
yes,
Arkansas
a popular sport.
Absolutely.
There, popular pastime. Yeah. Each of these places had their own appeal and, that were particular to that time when we lived there. Living in where I did in Virginia, it's right outside of D.C. That's a neat town. Again, you have to be into politics, but
I've never been to D.C. My wife begs me to take a trip up there. She wants to take a train, but we've never done it, so we need to.
I've never been there by train, but absolutely, you need to.
We just got back from
there.
Hawaii last week, and I tell you, after being in Hawaii, it's kind of like, well, maybe we should just close up shop and move to the islands for a while. It's a different way of life.
It's not going to be able to compete with Hawaii. I don't think that I've never been to Hawaii, but it's I had worked when I graduated from college and moved back. I worked for a small law firm for a year, one that primarily practiced family law, and then worked for a congressman who was from Arkansas before I came to.
So you actually got to work on the Hill?
I did, yes.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, my mother had worked for the same one in D.C. for several years, and then when she moved back to Arkansas, she worked in his district office. She was working for him at the time that I worked there. And you can't turn around without seeing a lawyer in D.C. And I knew that when I graduated from college, I was going to do something else. I just was tired of school at that point. And so I thought, okay, I'll go to law school and I can always come back here. I don't have to actually practice law. There are plenty of other professions or jobs I can pursue having a law degree.
Sure. So tell us about that move from that area down to Emory. How was that like?
Atlanta was very different at the time that I was there back in the Stone Age. The law school was just its own experience.
Sure.
I enjoyed the people that I went to school with, the friends that I made there, living there at the time.
Right.
Again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated. I found out that I had passed the bar the Saturday before I graduated, so that was great. Then I just needed to find a job.
Right. I think that's much better than how they do it now. You got to wait, 4 months to find out after you graduate?
Yeah. At the time, we could take the bar exam in our third year.
Okay.
And then, of course, they stopped that because everybody quit going to class. They were studying for the bar.
Right.
Many of my classmates took the bar then. So, and then, I just had to find a job, which really didn't seem quite as bad once I'd taken the bar exam.
Once you knew you were licensed.
Yeah, and that was behind me. But
so how did you transition into, I guess, prosecution? You've been doing that forever, right? Your entire career?
Most of it.
Okay.
I did a clinical, or internship, I don't know what they were called, my third year in law school, and that had included juvenile court in DeKalb County. And so kind of got a taste of the criminal aspect, a little bit of it. And I just always had been interested in true crime, all of that. And started applying in solicitors' offices, DA's offices, and my first job was with the Fulton County Public Defender's Office.
Okay.
And I did that for about 3-4 years before I went to work for the Fulton DA's office.
Okay.
And then I had a brief sabbatical in private practice working for a small to medium size insurance defense firm.
Okay.
And realized that I'd been in court prosecuting for too long, and
insurance world was too bored.
Yes, I wanted to be back in court, but that was just all about the money, and I really didn't get much satisfaction there. So because I had been with the Fulton DA's office, I guess 5.5 years when I left there, and so I was working for this firm in Atlanta, and had a friend from the PD's office who had relocated to Forsyth County.
Okay,
and he was up here practicing, and the circuit had just split.
Mm-hmm.
Forsyth had been part of the Blue Ridge Circuit with Cherokee, and we became our own, the Bell Forsyth Circuit. And so I came up here as chief assistant DA in 98.
98, okay.
Moved up here in 2000.
So you were driving from Atlanta to Cumming every day?
I was, yeah. I lived in Morningside and did that, I guess, for about 1.5 years.
Okay. That's what inspired me to start my own firm, as I was driving from here to Atlanta every day and just got tired of that. So hung a shingle.
It's all relative, but the traffic was bad then. So it was always worse going home than it was coming. But it was nice then when I moved here and had like a 15-minute commute.
So you saw the defense side of things in the criminal arena, and then now obviously you're a prosecutor. What made you transition from defense to prosecution, do you think?
It was a fairly natural transition for me. I got tired of being lied to, and tired of people not wanting to take accountability or responsibility and holding me responsible for the positions that they had put themselves into.
Right.
I was just the messenger. But I also saw that on the prosecution side, I would have more power rather than having to depend on someone else to do something, just me asking, going to a prosecutor. I could actually be the one who could do it.
Sure.
So it gave me a lot more options to do what I thought was appropriate. Taking into account that we have to keep the community safe, that
Right.
we're trying to take care of victims, but we also want to do that fairly.
Sure. That makes sense. So you said you came up here in 98 as an assistant district attorney.
Correct.
And then you became the district attorney in 2003. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
How did you make that jump?
I was Judge Smith's chief assistant, and
Okay.
he was appointed to the state court bench.
Okay.
It was a new state court position, and that was the beginning of 2003. So I applied for the position of district attorney and then was appointed by the governor
Okay.
to fill out the rest of Judge Smith's term.
Who was the governor in 90 or 2003?
No, and it was Judge Barnes.
Oh, okay.
Roy Barnes.
Yeah, Roy Barnes. I was just on the Zoom
Going
call.
way back in the
Yeah.
time machine. Yeah, I've been through a few now.
Fellow personal injury lawyer now. So when you came in 2003, did you have any visions or goals of where you wanted to take the office, or were you just next step on the ladder kind of thing?
I didn't see it as next step on the ladder.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep doing what we'd been doing, but do it better.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement, in terms of efficiency, or the type of service, for want of a better word, that
Right.
we are providing. The challenges here have often not been related to the actual work of prosecution,
Right.
but they really have been related to the county and the growth. We had as a challenge that we had outgrown the courthouse, so we were always trying to make accommodations for that as
Right.
to, where we would put staff, but also the number of staff. Then we got a new courthouse.
Yeah.
Since I became DA, and it was shortly after I was appointed, we created the drug court, one of our treatment courts, and then a few years later, it was the mental health care court.
Right.
And that was a concept that at the time was really novel. It's been a long time
Right.
now, so it's hard to think about that because I think many people out in the world are familiar somewhat with these treatment courts, accountability courts. They've really grown to include other populations.
Yep. And I think most counties have implemented some sort of drug court and care court. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you were appointed in 2003, and then how long until you had to run for election?
I ran the next year for a full term that began in 2005.
Ever in your wildest dreams did you think you'd be running for a political office?
Never.
Never?
No. Even after that time in D.C., I just did not think that I would be in politics, or I guess I didn't put being a district attorney in that category, but it's an elected office,
Sure.
and so it's political.
Yeah. I mean, not political, I guess, in what you do for a living, but political in the aspect that you have to be elected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
What was it like running?
Well, I didn't have any opposition.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the nerve-wracking time was during qualifying.
Okay.
And once nobody
Waiting to see if
qualified
somebody
against me, that's right. I mean, that time from when I got the appointment until qualifying, I would say was the nerve-wracking time because always waiting to hear if somebody were going to run against me.
Have you ever had an opponent?
I have not.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive.
No.
Very well. You're doing a good job. That's why.
I guess that or nobody wants the job.
So I think a lot of people probably don't understand what it is a district attorney does. So can you break it down into layman's terms? What is a district attorney? What do you do?
Well, in Georgia, we have 159 counties,
Okay.
and then we have 51 judicial circuits. And some circuits have multiple counties. Some, like Forsyth, the Bell Forsyth Circuit, only have one.
Right.
And the district attorneys are responsible within those circuits for prosecuting crimes that occur within the individual counties.
Okay.
And here in Forsyth, the DA's office prosecutes felony crimes that are committed within Forsyth County.
Okay.
And a felony is any crime that carries a minimum 1-year prison sentence all the way through to death penalty cases.
Okay.
Misdemeanors are crimes that carry a maximum of 12 months in the county jail.
Right.
And those are typically domestic violence cases like battery,
Sure.
assault, DUIs, the traffic offenses. And in Forsyth County, we have a state court and we have a solicitor's office that prosecutes those misdemeanors. So
Okay.
the DA's office doesn't. Some counties don't have state courts. So the DA gets felonies and misdemeanors.
So in those counties, the DA is also handling, say, traffic citations and that type
Correct.
of thing? Okay.
Yes, they're doing it all. And a DA's office has jurisdiction. Like I can prosecute misdemeanors,
Sure.
but I do it only when they're connected to felony cases.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a vehicular homicide,
Sure.
that underlying charge is going to be a misdemeanor, DUI, reckless conduct. Well, we would have jurisdiction over that.
And the circuit aspect, is that all tied to population? If you're somebody's dealing with a circuit versus just an individual county?
I don't know how they came up with the creation of the circuits and why they did that. Those that are the multiple county circuits don't have much of a population in those counties. You might have 4, 5, 6 counties, like in South Georgia, the really populous counties are only, circuits are only one county.
Yeah, I'm from
generally.
Carroll County, and so it's the Carroll-Coweta circuit. And I think they do Carroll-Coweta, Heard, and maybe Harrelson as well.
Well, they just split.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
So now it's the West Georgia, and I can't remember because I think the Coweta circuit got Coweta in another county or two, and then West Georgia, because I think it's also it was Carroll County, but maybe Meriwether County is in that circuit as well. Yeah.
Very neat. So, as the district attorney for Forsyth County, I assume you're running the district attorney's office.
Correct.
The day-to-day operations and hiring and firing and that type of stuff?
Correct.
Okay. Do you still get to try cases?
I do, but not as often as I would like, because that really was the most satisfying part of the job. And when I became DA, I missed that, but I don't carry a caseload.
Mm-hmm.
I am the prosecutor for our drug court and have been since we started that. And then in the past year, I became the prosecutor for our mental health court.
Okay. So how often do you think you get to actually strike a jury and try a case now?
Oh, I can tell you the last case I tried was during COVID.
Okay.
So it was like 2020 or 2021. And, I may occasionally take a case, but then it doesn't necessarily go to trial.
Yeah. That's interesting. So running the DA's office, how many assistant district attorneys do you have under you?
I have 8.
Okay.
We have I have 26 employees.
Okay.
And we have the 3 superior courts that we appear in front of, and each courtroom has a trial team. So I have 2 prosecutors, an investigator, a victim advocate, and then an admin.
Okay.
And I have a drug prosecutor who's prosecuting the intents, traffickings, and he's in all 3 courtrooms.
Okay.
And so the cases are just divided randomly. I'm in the 2 treatment courts, and then I also have a prosecutor and administrative support person in juvenile court.
Okay. So it's not like a case comes in and you assign it to a specific assistant district attorney. You just, whichever judge it got, it goes to that courtroom?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it set up that it's a system, so we ask say we're opening a file, the clerk's office assigns the judge, and then it's going to be one of those 2 prosecutors, whether it's an odd number or even
I never
number.
knew that.
Yes, it usually works out. And again, sometimes there are exceptions that are made, and we have a whole process for, figuring out the drug cases, how they're considered, and then those, we don't have as many, but those that are considered for mental health court. And then for the juvenile crimes, we prosecute all of them. So that's if it's traffic, misdemeanors, felonies, that's different. The solicitor's office doesn't have anyone in juvenile court. And kids can be prosecuted for crimes up to the age of 17. Okay. Actually, the day before their 17th birthday. Yes. And then we do have what are called the 7 deadlies, the most serious crimes that we can prosecute juveniles as adults.
What are the 7 deadlies?
They include rape, armed robbery, murder, aggravated child molestation.
Yeah.
There may be treason maybe in there. I have to say I've never prosecuted an adult for that.
Yeah.
I think the carjacking, it's expanded over the years, but Superior Court has jurisdiction, and when the juveniles are charged as adults, they are then treated the same as, in terms of no privacy requirements. They don't get held at the county jail. They get held at a juvenile facility, but otherwise they are fingerprinted. Their identity is not anonymous. And we have then the ability to transfer the case to juvenile court or to work out some kind of hybrid resolution.
Very neat. So let me ask you this. We had Judge Dunn on a couple episodes ago. He was one of your ADAs for 25 years, something like that. What was it like seeing him go from the DA's office to the bench?
I was so proud of him. Yes, it was actually Judge Smith who was DA when Judge Dunn was hired, but I'm still taking quite a bit of credit, and we managed to get him to come without telling him that there was going to be this. We thought there might be this change in leadership. We didn't know what would happen, but I just think that he's a wonderful person. I know that I am partial, but he's just a decent human being. But he's a smart guy, and I couldn't think of a better choice.
Yeah, he's been great, and he was a great guest on the podcast too. I mean, learned a lot from him, so it was a pleasure having him on. So tell me about this. Let's take us through the process when somebody is charged with the crime. So I guess from the warrant process all the way through the verdict. What does that process look like in your office?
Generally, law enforcement, and here the majority of the time it's the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, is the investigating agency, but it might be the Cumming Police Department, it might be the GBI. My office has 4 investigators, all of whom are post-certified, which means they have arrest powers, so they have the ability to get arrest warrants, and we've done that very rarely, but it has happened. When the person is arrested, then the paperwork comes to my office and we open a file. The case gets assigned to a judge and a prosecutor, and then the prosecutor decides what to do with the case. Generally, more investigation gets done. There's always something else that we want to know or want to get. But the prosecutor has discretion to decide what charges, if any, to bring. A person might get arrested on a certain number of charges, but we can dismiss those. We can add to those. And the prosecutor reviews the case and decides what to do with it. Some cases, if it's just a felony, we may close out because we don't think we have enough to go forward. It's only probable cause, which, as you know, is one of the lowest standards in law that's required for an arrest, but it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard that we have to prove in order to get a guilty verdict. And that's what we're always looking at, in terms of issues, facts, whatever it is. Could we prove this case if it got in front of a jury?
Right.
So, we might dismiss a case, we might dismiss the felony and send it to state court if there are misdemeanors attached, or we might transfer it saying this would be better treated as a misdemeanor.
Right.
There are defendants who are getting lawyers, and so their cases are getting worked out with the prosecutor, so that plea, I would say bargains, but sometimes I don't think defendants probably think it's much of one. Yeah, that may be a bit of a misnomer, but they're going into court and pleading guilty on what are called accusations.
Yeah.
That's the charging document. And those cases, get resolved that way. Some of them end up in our care court. Some of them end up in drug court. And then the prosecutor, if that doesn't happen, will draw an indictment, and that's the formal charging document. Those are the charges that a defendant will be left with once they're presented to a grand jury, and the grand jury decides to true bill that case, which means return an indictment. And our grand jury here meets once a month.
Right.
We have 3 terms of court every year. So once a defendant has been indicted, then they go to court for what's called arraignment, where they enter their not guilty plea, and that can be waived these days. That's not required if they have a lawyer. And then the case goes from there. It may get worked out between the defense attorney and the prosecutor, some kind of plea resolution for the sentence. It could be that case will go to trial. And there might be pretrial motions before there is a trial, like a motion to suppress evidence or a motion to suppress the defendant's statement. And once those motions have been heard, then it goes to trial. Usually that's going to be a jury trial, but defendants can give up their right to that and have a bench trial, have the judge try their case. That's rare in Superior Court.
Right.
And then if the defendant is convicted at trial, they have a right to an appeal. In Georgia, we have 2 appellate courts, the Court of Appeals. They hear all criminal cases, but for murders and any constitutional questions, those cases go to the Georgia Supreme Court. And my office will represent the state on appeal.
Okay.
And then once the appellate process, that part of it is closed, then my office is done. And if there are further appellate issues known as habeas corpus, then those go to the Attorney General's office.
Okay. Have you ever got to argue in front of the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals?
Yes to both.
Okay.
It's been many, many, many years ago that I argued in front of the Court of Appeals. And I'm trying to think. It's probably been, I don't know, mid-2000s that I was in front of the Supreme Court was the last time. I can't remember if it used to be required. It was kind of a given in both courts that there would be oral argument.
Right.
And now it has changed where it has to be requested. So I've certainly written briefs in both of those courts since I've been district attorney, but it's been a while since I've been in front of them. I know it was on a quadruple murder case. And and it was a death penalty case, so it was interim hearings.
Yeah.
And we ended up resolving the cases by plea, so there was no appeal. So I want to say that was, I think, mid-2000s.
Yeah. I'm 2-0 in the Court of Appeals, but I've never had oral argument. It's always decided on the briefs, which I'm okay with because I've gone down there and watched
you need
multiple
to have
times.
That experience at least once.
Jonah Howell across the lobby there, that's his life goal, is just to argue as many times in front of the Supreme Court as he can. And I'm just like, man, that's
good for him.
It takes so much time. And I've gone in there and watched multiple arguments, and it's so daunting to see them come out behind. I haven't been to the new building, but the old building, they come out from behind the marble wall there. And
that new building is
it nice?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I
need to go see
it's
it.
impressive. Yeah, it's imposing.
Yeah.
But at least now the technology allows that you have those arguments that you can watch.
Yeah.
I like watching the
It's
oral
fun.
arguments. Yeah.
I watched Jonah do his last one. They actually had to go to Milledgeville to do it. They did a temporary courtroom out there in Milledgeville. He got to go argue, and we had a good time making fun of him while he argued. So,
well, good for him though.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to
He
do.
won.
How
He won.
many times has he appeared in front of them?
That's a good question. I don't know. That could have been his first argument for all I know, but yeah, he was jacked about it. So
You need to have him as a guest.
Jonah?
Yeah, even though that would I don't know, that was probably nothing personal, but only so many, the lawyers would be the ones who would be interested in that. But
I'm terrified what Jonah might actually say if we brought him on here. So maybe one day if we run out of guests, we'll bring him in. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know much about that process. Honestly, it shows my ignorance for the criminal side. But I know, on the civil side, we have the discovery period where we're exchanging documents. Do you guys do the same?
To a much lesser extent.
Okay.
The discovery process is shorter, and I think overall we don't have as much discovery, if you will. I would say paper, but now so much of it is in some other format.
Right.
Certainly we're not taking depositions.
Right.
We have what we call an open file policy in the DA's office, that once the pleadings or file where defense attorneys want to opt into that, then they can come to the DA's office, review the file, and, copy what it is that they want.
So it's more you guys sharing information than the defendant sharing with you guys. Yeah.
Right. They are required to do that. Generally, that's not going to be a lot of items. Again, paper, it would be a witness list.
Okay. Very neat. So how many jury trials have you tried? Do you know?
No.
No idea. What's your favorite part of a jury trial?
A closing argument, which I think is going to be most.
Yeah, that's what Judge Dunn said as well.
People,
banging on desk and yelling and putting on the show.
Well, I just, I don't know that I ever did any banging on the desk. The yelling was usually reserved for cross-examination of the defendants. But it's just the time to bring it all together, and I just enjoy doing that, where you're arguing the facts and, the relevant law, just putting it before a jury.
I tell my clients all the time that we get to practice a lot, and that's what just litigation is in general. It's just practice. And then finally you get that jury trial and it's game day, and you get the game day butterflies, and it's fun. There's really nothing like it. No experience I've ever had that's like trying a jury trial.
No, I agree. And the more you do it, the, fewer butterflies there are. I have to say, though, I could, going into court for my office, being there when verdicts come back, in case I haven't tried, there is that feeling.
A little apprehension, whatever it is.
I get a little vomitious, and I really do think that I could walk into a courtroom anywhere and just right when that jury's returning a verdict, and just PTSD, that feeling, and that I would have to say is my least.
Your least favorite?
That probably tied with voir dire.
Well, I mean, like you said, that long process working it up. I mean, I guess it could take years from indictment until you get to trial in some cases, right?
Well, only those that are the most complicated, most serious. That's one thing about our office. Given the caseloads and the nature of the cases, that we really can move through them, I think, in a fairly efficient manner. Like we didn't really have a backlog going into COVID. Our backlog was caused by COVID.
Right.
And then part of it was the fact that we came back before other places, but we got through that.
Yeah.
But, there are always going to be exceptions to the rules, and there are some cases that just given the issues, get delayed and take longer than others, longer than we would like them to, especially when there may be someone who's in jail.
Right. Yeah, and then you guys are dealing with pretty serious repercussions on the other end of what you're asking for. So I imagine that's nerve-wracking as well, especially capital cases. Have you had very many capital cases?
Here we've had 2. One of them, the one I argued in the Supreme Court, that had 3 defendants, and we resolved all those with pleas. And then the other one, we had to change venue, and went to Dalton, Whitfield County, to try that one, and they returned a sentence of life.
Wow.
There were 2 of them, and it was the 2 we were worried about going into trial who did not return a verdict of death.
Yeah, that's wild. Talking about Forsyth County, so having been here now 20 plus years, I imagine it's changed a lot, but what are some of the biggest criminal issues, if that's what you want to call it, facing Forsyth County? What do you guys deal with more than anything?
Well, fortunately, we are not dealing with a lot of violent crime, stranger on stranger. It's safe here. That's part of the reason people, I don't know, why they move here, why they like living here, especially when they've got families. I would say that it's drugs. Yes, and primarily possession cases, property crimes. It seems to trend for a period of time. It'll be one type of case that we seem to try a lot of, and for several years that was crimes against children, mostly the sexual offenses. I would say the past couple of years it has been the domestic violence cases. A few years ago, the law changed to include strangulation as an aggravated assault.
Makes sense.
And we see those. Most of the crimes of violence here are going to be domestic in nature. The people are going to know each other.
Right. Is there much gang activity in Forsyth County?
No.
That's good. And credit to the sheriff's office. I mean, they do a great job of keeping us safe. And then you guys handling it on the back end. So thanks to both of you. For Forsyth County residents in general, is there any way to, probably not, but any way to get involved with the DA's office and help or volunteer or anything like that?
Stay out of trouble. Just don't get arrested.
Don't show up at the office.
Not for a felony anyway.
Right.
No, I can't say that there would be. The sheriff's office has some kind of academy, and then they have their explorers. The DA's office here does not. We do regularly have interns, whether it's been through the high school, the college, Georgia State and UGA law schools will send us students. So we, like to participate in that because we get hires out of that. With those law students. We can, train them, mold them the way that we want them. Otherwise, though,
My buddy Scott called me this morning. Actually, we were talking. His daughter's at Colorado, and she's coming home for the summer and interning with the Cherokee County DA's office. And I was like, "Why didn't you say something? We could have made connections here and got an internship at Forsyth County."
Is she in college?
She is. I want to say she's a second year, maybe, in college, but she gets course credit for doing the internship, which is really neat. And she thinks
we've currently gotten a third year at Georgia State Law School, and that's great because she can
third-year practice act,
right?
Yeah, she can.
That's right. So we can get her into court, and she's going to come work for us when she graduates. But
do you think you hire more in that regard, like people that have interned with you and been around, or do you go seek practicing lawyers and bring them into the office?
In the past, it's been the latter.
Okay.
I like prosecutors who have some experience.
Sure.
But that landscape seems to be changing. It did after COVID,
right.
and we've had there's one of our prosecutors that had been an intern with us, and we took her on, and again, we have some idea of what we're getting, but also she knows what it is that we do and how we expect things to be done.
Yep. Are you guys fully staffed now, or do you have
No.
How many more attorneys do you need?
Let's see. I just fill one position. I've got two others.
Okay.
I've got a couple who are retiring. Anyone who's out there listening,
send your resumes.
That's right. Yes, my chief's about to retire. The drug prosecutor's about to retire. They're leaving me.
Oh wow! How long have they been with you?
The chief was hired again maybe a year before I became district attorney, and then the drug prosecutor, he had taken Judge Dunn's spot. He's been with me about 2 years, but he had been a career prosecutor, and those are becoming fewer and farther between. So I've got a lot of experience and institutional memory about to walk out the door.
Big shoes to fill for sure.
Yes.
Well, maybe you'll find somebody good. Let us know if we can help. I don't know of anybody looking for a job, but we'll send them your way if we hear
Good.
So talk about in the community. What do you do outside of just being a DA? Are you involved in any other organizations or boards or that type of thing?
I am. I'm a member of the South Forsyth Rotary Club.
Okay.
Are you in a Rotary?
I'm not.
Spencer, I guess, is in the North Club.
Spencer's in North, and then Jonah's courting me pretty hard for his.
Lanier.
Is it Lanier?
See the
It's the one
club?
over like behind the Board of Education.
Oh, the Forsyth Club.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. The original.
The OGs.
That's right. Yes, I'm a member of that club. I'm a member of another civic organization, Altrusa International of North Georgia. I am currently on the board of Mentor Me, North Georgia.
I think Judge Dunn said he was on Mentor Me as well. Is that right?
He's with Baldridge Lodge.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, that's where I am currently. And then I, in my capacity as district attorney, I sit on the board of AVITA, which is the community service board. For it includes Forsyth. It's regional, but I'm appointed to that by the commission. AVITA provides services, mental health services for the community, in addition to the intellectually disabled, and then substance abuse treatment as well. And then I sit on the board of the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
I think originally since 2016. That was a gubernatorial appointment.
Very nice.
There's a representative for each congressional district.
Okay. What do you guys do with that board?
Well, we're overseeing the mission of the Department of Juvenile Justice, which is in charge of all the juveniles in the state who are in their custody from the commission of crimes. So that includes those who are out in the community receiving services, but it's also those who are in custody. Like either they're regional youth detention centers. Those are like the jails for juveniles.
Right.
Gainesville has one, or I think now we call them development campuses.
Yeah.
And then the youth development campuses throughout the state that are where the kids who are under sentenced are housed.
Gosh, we were talking about this the other day with some of my friends back in, I'd say, middle school. Terrible now looking back on it, but they used to take us on a field trip to the juvenile detention center, and they would watch these kids come in and get processed, and it just scared the daylights out of you. I mean, it worked.
You were scared straight.
Right.
That's right.
Didn't commit any crimes, but thinking
you were
about
probably headed that way, though, if you hadn't been there.
Undoubtedly, certainly.
Yeah, in this day, they can be scary.
Yeah.
Places.
It was. I mean,
it's sad, but there are some dangerous youth out there.
It was an interesting field trip. Then instead of the zoo, we went to the juvenile detention center. It was different. And then I saw Kevin Tanner when I was searching you on the internet. One of the posts I did see was Kevin Tanner posted about the adult abuse, neglect, and exploitation multidisciplinary team.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? I'm still trying to come up with a good acronym. Yes, that is a statutory creation that is not required of counties. I don't know whether it will become one, but it is a model for all of the agencies that provide services to the elderly, to at-risk adults, disabled adults, to collaborate on cases. Or issues. So you get the idea is to get all the stakeholders around the table at one time to be able to talk about cases. And they're not necessarily going to be cases where anyone has committed a crime.
Right.
We may be talking about individuals with mental health issues who are experiencing self-neglect. And the idea is to share what resources there may be, what actions may need to be taken, and the statute, for whatever reason, puts the district attorney as the coordinator of that. And we just had our kickoff meeting, and Commissioner Tanner was there, and so we're trying to get that established, where then we would have, I think, start out quarterly meetings and see how we do how if we need to tweak it.
I think that sounds awesome. I look forward to seeing where you go with it, and let us know if we can help with that at all. I don't know if we can.
Good. Yes,
certainly would love to get involved.
Thank you.
So what are some takeaways that you've received from being involved in the community and seeing different things, whether it's personally, professionally, whatever it may be?
I think generally this is a very compassionate community. And I think they are also very generous, whether it's with their time or whether it is with money. I find, too, there are people out there, they hear that something is needed or something needs to be done, and they're all over it, and they make it happen.
Yeah.
I've certainly, seen changes since I've been here in terms of just as the population has grown, but the services or organizations to, help the different populations have also increased. Like it was South Forsyth Rotary that started Jesse's House. The residents, the shelter for girls, and it was a Rotary Club, a couple members that got the Boys Lodge up and going, and it's remarkable to see it happen. I served on the board of United Way for several years, many years ago, and that was a great way to see the different agencies and organizations that were out there.
Yeah, and I think in this county especially, such an affluent place that you don't realize there are all these needs. And then once you start meeting people that are involved with the different organizations, it becomes very clear there are these needs, but we are a very generous community, and just so many nonprofits out there helping. The Rotaries do a huge huge job.
Yes, they do.
Helping with that.
Yeah, it's something to think we have 5 Rotaries for our population, and then there are other organizations out there too.
And all fairly good-sized Rotary clubs too.
Yeah.
I think I've been to 3 different ones and it's always packed, so.
Yeah.
That's any other boards that you can think of that we might have skipped over?
No, I think that's enough.
That's enough?
Right now.
Does that keep you busy?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's switch over and talk about something a little bit more fun. So Spencer and I like to call this our quick fire session. And this is where we ask you some just general questions, 1-word answers if you want to, or you can elaborate, find out a little bit more about you. First question. I heard there is a picture in your office of you and PJ Gervin. So the question is that true? And why would you keep something like that?
Yes, that is true. And why wouldn't I keep something like that? It was put in a lovely frame, brought to me. It's PJ, for Pete's sake.
That's it.
I'm sad, though, it's not autographed.
Oh, we can arrange that. He's very proud of it. So we'll let him know to swing by and sign it for you.
Yeah, every time I'm going to be around him, I always threaten, like, I'm going to bring her picture.
Yep.
Set it on. I should have brought it today.
You should. We could.
Since he's a former podcast guest, he would be with us in spirit.
Yeah, he was adamant that we have you on as well. So I appreciate you listening to what he said and joining us. You talked about true crime earlier. I actually heard somebody telling a joke the other day about unsolved mysteries growing up in the late 80s and early 90s and how it terrified every person that ever watched it. But what's your favorite crime show?
Well, I have to say that I don't, what constitutes crime shows these days, I probably don't watch, like the CSI franchise. But Law and Order, I haven't seen it in years, but back in the day when it was, long before true crime became this thing. Yeah. And before podcast, and it was very realistic. Yeah. And I think that was why I liked it.
It's funny, Judge John said that he never watched them when he was in the DA's office, but now he's on the bench, he started watching crime shows again, and he's just falling back in love. Yep, that's it. Do you follow sports?
Only this time of the year.
Okay. What is it about this time of year? March
Madness.
Okay. Did you fill out a bracket?
I did, yes.
All right.
I probably watch more basketball, like all the sports interest or viewing that I've got is all concentrated within this 2-week period, and then I'm done until next year.
Who did you pick to win?
I'm out. I have 2 brackets, and the one I spent the most time on, Alabama.
Okay.
And then in the other one, I think it's Arizona.
All right. I did not do a bracket, so I can't comment. My friends give me a hard time, but I just don't like donating $50 for nothing because I know nothing about basketball.
Well, we're public servants. You in the private practice probably, those are high stakes, but for us it was,
bragging rights.
Yeah, and yes, and the glory of it.
Yeah.
So
my wife is actually pretty good at picking college brackets, and she's never watched a basketball game in her life. But,
really?
Yep.
Yeah, there's some exciting games.
Sure.
And last year, I remember, we didn't do it last year. It's The Office that does the pool. But I was watching the games, and I found the women's, it was at the very end, more exciting than I did the men's.
That's great. What about coffee? You're a coffee drinker?
Absolutely.
What's your favorite coffee?
Too much.
Oh, same.
My favorite, it's a low bar since I drink, what they're serving over at the courthouse, just black coffee.
Whatever's black and hot.
Yeah, that's right.
I like it. What's a favorite hobby of yours?
Reading.
Okay.
And that includes listening to books. I do a fair amount of that. I've always been an avid reader.
Do you have a specific genre that you like to read or listen to?
Crime fiction.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise. Psychological thrillers, current fiction.
Okay.
I should probably read more nonfiction to make up for that. But, I do listen to a podcast.
Yeah. So talking about the reading, and I don't read any nonfiction either. I'm a strictly fiction kind of guy. And I think it's because I deal with real stuff every day. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to be able to escape. And I do. I love John Grisham and everything that he writes. It's easy reading and it's fun. So
Yeah, I went through the John Grisham phase, and then he just kept going.
A couple books a year, it seems like.
Yes, yeah.
So here's a question we ask everybody. If you get to have dinner with any historical figure ever, who is it and why? And I'll tell you, we've had a lot of people deviate. They don't go with actual historical figures. We've had grandfathers come into play. I think actually grandfathers has been the only deviation, but several people went that route.
One who immediately comes to mind would be Sandra Day O'Connor.
Okay. We haven't had that. That's a good one.
Not very creative.
Yeah.
I don't think. But, I mean, just because she was such a brilliant mind.
Sure.
And given where we are now, I don't know if we could branch off if we're deviating like literary figures would probably be someone like Flannery O'Connor, a Dorothy Parker. I would just find them very entertaining.
Yeah. So if you get to have dinner with one of those people, where are you going to take them?
Oh, for Pete's sake. Well, I guess I should say Casanova since I put in a plug for them at the very beginning. But yeah, it's going to have to be someplace that's, fairly nice.
Yeah.
Nothing against Whataburger, but we're not going to roll in there. This opens it up because there are just so many
we get a lot
places.
Of mom's kitchens. We get a lot of steakhouses.
Oh, yeah. I would be going out.
Yep.
There's going to be no home cooking. Sandra Day seems like the type. She would like red meat.
Yep. Nice white tablecloth.
You can't go wrong with that.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I can come up with.
That's good enough.
That's just a lot. Those came from out of left.
We like to go deep on the Bettis Musgrove show. Make you think a little bit. What's your favorite thing to do at the end of a stressful day?
Go home.
Go home.
Yes.
Turn the lights off and sit?
No, I don't turn the lights off, but that would be it, just to leave the office.
Okay. What is your favorite vacation spot you've ever visited?
I haven't been to enough of those to say too many where I would like to go.
Okay.
Because I think they might end up being my favorite, but to travel somewhere.
Yeah, we got to get you out there more.
Yeah, sightseeing trips.
We'll bring you back in a year, and you'll have to give us an answer.
Give you a travel log.
Where you went. All right, and then here's a fun one. What's one material item, that you can't live without?
I guess it's going to have to be my phone.
That's number one answer.
I know, but yeah.
Right.
But that's true, I think.
We'll end it with this one. So you listen to books. Do you listen to podcasts?
A few, yes.
Okay. What are you listening to?
Well, now my new favorite is the Bettis Musgrove podcast.
We love it.
I listen to Little Gold Men, which is about the entertainment business, film, TV. I like those. And then keeping up with popular culture. The Daily from the New York Times. Yeah. There's one, Politically Georgia.
I've never heard of that one.
I think that's it. That's good for getting the down and dirty on all
the current politics.
Politics, right.
Plenty to go around this legislative session. So.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Well, again, we appreciate you coming on. This was fun. Very informational. I think people will get a lot from it.
Well, good. I hope so.
I certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And as always, if you want to find us, BettisMusgrove.com. All the Instagram or social media platforms at Bettis Musgrove, and the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.